BIC episode 119. Bougie Eric is not here, so in absentia, he gives his greatest regards and is currently in line trying to get season tickets to the 1987 Red Sox. He's been in line for a very long time. He doesn't understand the whole time thing. Time confuses him in much the same way as sizes small, large, medium. These are very confusing things for him. But nonetheless, we trudge forward, we trudge on, and we'll still have an episode. On this episode, we're going to talk about a little bit of a mix of different topics. I'll touch on a few things, videos from this past week, because there were some good responses to it. But then also, I want to talk about the consolidation, because I've started my little consolidation project. So we'll touch on that and more on this episode of the BIC podcast. Yes, we are back under the watchful eye of Brett Favre, and this is post daylight savings, which totally screwed me today. I 100% forgot daylight savings was even a thing today, and I was like, why am I so tired? Oh, an hour
Yes.
forward. Oh, that thing.
Yeah, it hit me
My
yesterday.
watch is literally an hour off because of this nonsense.
Yeah, it hit me yesterday and this morning. And yep. I wish they would just keep it the same.
Yeah. I completely forgot it was even a thing, and then I set my alarm like normal. The phone, of course, changes it, so the alarm goes off at the time it's supposed to go off. But I was just like, man, I just feel a little extra. We needed some extra coffee today. Some extra
Yeah.
coffee was needed just to get us over the line today. It was a little rough, a little touch and go there, but we managed. So nonetheless, let me start off. Actually, we'll start off with the silly card of the week. We did get what I think. I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to get my fact checkers on this. Very close to a record turnout. So if it isn't a record turnout, then it's very close to a record turnout. So we appreciate it. Got some comments, got some likes, so appreciate that. So total, Squirrel was the winner with 54% of the popular vote. Very strong. 22% for the Shockmaster, and then the normal size glove, and Eric is indeed weird. Also, as I said, did get some comments, so appreciated that. And I must say, the comments I think were greatly appropriated. Let's see here. So VV Card CA said, hard not to vote for the bedazzled Stormtrooper helmet. Correct. Yes, that is right. And Zach says, glove looks normal size. I don't get it. Exactly. I don't know what Eric is doing. I don't understand. Like, he needs his glasses fixed. He needs something. Eric needs an intervention. He needs a role model. But nonetheless, we did have our results from last week. We thank you all for participating. And we will give you another community post this week where you'll be getting the new silly card of the week. And like I said, I'm still iffy on whether we should allow Eric's entry, given that he is absent. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and the card kind of like gives itself away too.
I got to be honest. I'm inclined. I'm going to make an executive decision. I will allow this for next week, but Eric must be present to submit his homework. If he's not here, I'm not allowing it. You can participate next week. So Eric is out. We're carrying it over to next week. We're gonna have a couple of other ones here. So let's go in here and we're going to quickly talk about AMG Collectibles, amgcollectibles.ca, AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. I will say that on this upcoming episode, we haven't recorded it yet, but by the time this drops, we will have recorded it. And on that episode, which will drop on Wednesday, I can assure you there will be quite the amount of vintage. Because Steve, the collector of the scalps, collector of people, got himself a nice collection of vintage baseball and vintage the hockeys. So there's going to be a pretty good big group lots of both. And there may be some Mantels inside of the vintage baseball as well. So we've got some of that. So very exciting, some good names and stuff. There will be also a mix of some regular items, so we'll have that. And I believe, I will double check to be 100% sure, but I believe we may have the new 2023, 2024 EX Century. So if you're familiar with the 90s cards, they're bringing back
That's
some of those
finally coming
designs.
out.
It is finally coming out with Bedard, kind of late because now a lot of the momentum has been lost. However, there will be essential credentials. And if it is coming out this week, Brandon, I will say there is one thing that I like. They brought back the autographics, which are very nice. There's some very nice autographics.
I
And
I like the product. I think I told Wes in the Discord that we might have been chatting privately. I don't know,
mhm,
but I told him like hockey right now. The main ones that I really like are kind of like the Metal Universe, and then depending
mhm.
on hopefully EX doesn't doesn't drop the ball on that set because I'm curious to see what it looks like. But
Well, I think they've got at least a chance because Gene McLeod, who was involved with Arena Design, who did a lot of that stuff, is back in the fold. So this is 100% obviously something they were involved in back then. So we'll have to kind of see how this one plays out. They're going to have the essential credentials and a lot of different versions of it. Like I said, I'll confirm, but I'm pretty sure it's supposed to drop this week. And if it is in fact supposed to drop this week, obviously that'll be the feature, I think, if that's the one we go with. And specifically, I will say from the autographics, there is only one Medano card in the entire thing. You know, from the Legends rotation, everything, all he has on the checklist, as far as I can tell, is the autographics. Which, being that I'm an autograph collector, is perfect for me because I'm like, great. You know what? I only have to chase one card, and it happens to be a kind that I like. I'm a fan.
I actually have it right here on hand. EX
Yep.
got the Chad Johnson 01 EX rookie auto recently. So
Nice.
since we were speaking of it, I figured I would share. There's proof. I like the EXs.
The EXs. So if that turns out and that comes to pass, that'll be on the podcast episode. We'll talk about it. We'll showcase it some more. We'll pull up some stuff from Upper Deck and also from it. The checklist is out. So one way or the other, it is close. And like I said, I believe it'll be this week. And if it is the case, then we'll talk about it some more on the podcast episode. So thank you to AMG for supporting the podcast, the channel, and this episode. Now, let's talk about Silly Card of the Week here. Like I said, Eric's is being removed because of technicalities. Sorry. You got to be here in order to get it. So we're going to have two options this week. I'm going to share them with you right now. So first one, Brandon, is going to be yours. We're going to go into it, and then we'll share the second one here. First one here is Pinnacle Sidelines Karate.
Karate, no, baseball. This is actually Pinnacle Baseball. I'm assuming, I thought this was a subset, but I think it's like just one of those 90s products where they kind of added it all to the main set because it's card number 592. But it's showing off Jim Gott and his black belt karate. So,
And it looks like his foot is disintegrating. That might be an overexposure thing, but it's like it's a little weird.
I think it's a bad picture.
Yeah. So, nonetheless, either his foot is disintegrating as he goes into the light, or it's a bit of a bad picture. Either way, kind of an interesting one.
I am not black belt, by no means. I don't even know if I would consider myself white belt. But good form on the Jim Gott. Good form.
Yes, yes. You know what Jim Gott said after he was done trying to hit this high kick? And he went out there and he got the high fives and the kudos. He said, "Thank you, brother." So this is from the new 2025 WWE Chrome product that came out of it. One of them is kind of this, I want to say it's monikers or something. Basically, they've got a bunch of different characters in the insert with a signature phrase or something related to. Literally, there is no other thing that Hulk Hogan could ever be put on there. It had to be brother. There is nothing else. But I just love the fact that a card exists that literally in the background, all it says is brother.
How much photoshopping and airbrushing and touch-up was done on that thing?
The answer is yes. The answer is
it almost looks
yes.
like they drew Hogan. Also, I'm guessing that card is way off-centered, or the design is even worse. The way brother is all the way to the right, but
so here's the thing. I think there's an argument to be made for both, because on the one hand, brother is almost cut off, but then
Hogan
look at
is
where
centered.
the Topps Chrome logo is. But look where the Topps Chrome logo is. You can't move it that far. Like you need some room.
Yeah, that's what I was. But and Hogan looks centered.
That's what I mean. So like I gotta be honest, Brandon. I think somebody was drunk when they were doing it, and the design elements are all over the place.
Yeah, that one's a little quirky.
Yeah, I think we've got to chalk
Hogan's
this one
even
up.
shocked. Look at the man's eyeballs. I think he's even shocked at it.
He's looking off screen. He's freaked out. You know, it's all happening right there, brother. I just love the fact. As soon as I saw it with the background, I was like, yes, brother. Yes. So that'll be my submission for this week. Silly Card of the Week brought to us by AMG. So thank you for participating in that. All right. And like I said, there'll be a community post. Feel free to vote on it. It is the only true democracy left in this world. All right, couple of comments here. Let me see if I can grab something. So a couple of things came on the channel this past week. We had Brad Hartland from PSA Canada come on. PSA Canada now is under collectors, so it was part of brought up. And the reason is it was brought up is because obviously there were questions that people had and things they wanted to know related to kind of what was going on with the whole tariff situation. The thing is, it's still in flux because it was on and now it's sort of off kind of off, but for some things, uh, for the majority of you, my suggestion honestly is don't worry about it. Don't spend too much time because there are more pressing concerns than the concern about card grading or what's going to happen with that. The only takeaway was that for the current being is that if somebody submits on this side of the border and they're submitting with PSA Canon and all that, their job is to take care of it and make sure it gets from point A to point B. Make sure that's handled for you. So that was basically the upshot. And if you have any subsequent questions on it, there were some folks that had questions about it, like if I'm submitting directly and all that. It's like, well, can't answer that for you. The only one that can answer that for you is reach out directly to whomever you were doing business with, because that's going to be where your answers are going to come from. By the way, and it's changing all the time. So if somebody gives you an answer today, right this minute, but your stuff doesn't ship for a while, the answer might change by the time you do that. So that's what I'm saying. Don't just assume that an answer given right this moment, unless the shipping is happening at this moment, the answer could change by tomorrow, because it literally was changing day by day. Even as by the time we finish recording, the next day things had changed. So it's like you're doing the best you can with a fluid situation. Let's put it that way. But thank you either way to Brad for coming on and answering questions to the best of his ability based on what he had at that time. So he was getting bombarded with a lot of communication with folks. So it was nice of him to come on and try his best to answer, at least at that moment in time, to give some responses to folks. So appreciate that. And then also thanks to Dan's Vintage Baseball PC and also Billy Cilio from Upper Deck, who came on the live stream on Friday. So we had a nice action-packed Friday episode. Had a couple different folks come on and contribute and chip in. So it was kind of an enjoyable occasion and a lot of good engagement from the chat and everybody else. So appreciate you for that. All right, last thing from last week's episode. We did have some comments on there, so appreciate it. So Dan did contribute to it. He specifically talked about the card shows from the late 70s and wanted to give us a little background on it. So on Friday, he did give us a couple of stories, which is great. And then Bob Boozle, I want to read this comment because it's a good one. Bob Boozle said, I got my boy, Bobby Jr., into sports cards so I can train him to take over my criminal enterprise. He's a natural. My response, #family business. Appreciate you, Bob Boozle. So thank you for the comments and engagement, as always. As always. All right. A couple of quick things. One of them that I want to talk about briefly is that...
Real quick.
Go ahead.
Since we just went over the silly card of the week, I meant to mention this earlier. I appreciate all the votes. I want to let everybody know, if you cross over and watch videos on my channel, I have not quit doing videos again. I've just been had a lot of crap going on that I've been trying to focus on. So I'm going to get back to doing them again. But I found it funny that I almost feel like I get more votes on my silly card of the week than I do views on some of my videos. That's kind of crazy.
It's all about the passion that people have for the silly card of the week, Brandon.
They appreciate the segment. I was thinking about that. I was like, damn, I think I get more interaction and votes than sometimes I get views.
Yep. Now I will say, actually, this was kind of funny here. Okay, never mind. I wanted to make sure I read something right, because I was with Ovechkin scoring his goals. I actually saw different posts where some people put 9 goals, some people put 8 goals, but you have to specify 8 goals to tie, 9 goals to pass.
8
so it's
to
important.
Tie, 9 to pass. Yep.
Yeah, because some people are trying to when you put the images, the graphics, but you're using the same type of graphics, the same font and everything else. I'm like, wait, hold on. Are you saying to tie or to pass? Just so we're clear. Like, please be specific, because that's been kind of a nuisance right now. Going on with a little bit of it. So nonetheless, I will say, so kind of as a quick aside, I actually got to watch the pay-per-view from the wrestling last night, so it was good. One of the things, I enjoyed the show and everything, but one of my frustrations, so kind of this is pivoting off of that, one of my frustrations has been for a while, kind of the side of the business, and this is Upper Deck predominantly, the side of the business relating to ePack. And I was saying to Brandon before we started recording that obviously I am a big fan of the cards. I like to collect my debt from my dentist PC and everything. So it's something I'm passionate about. Although I did make some good progress on the WWE thing. Speaking of WWE Chrome, if you do watch that wrestling channel, the next time I ship my cards, mail day comes in, I'm going to show you a lot of stuff from Chrome, because I did work on most of a rainbow and was able to complete most of a rainbow for Chrome. And trust me, that's a lot of cards. So I was actually able to make a huge dent in one of them, and I'll showcase it at that time. But for the Upper Deck side of it, one of my frustrations has been the release schedule of the products. But another frustration to go along with that is the subsequent release schedule of ePack, which is its own beast separate from the one, because you've got the actual product release, and then some of the product is held for ePack purposes. Now, one of the things that I've talked about, because I talked to people at Upper Deck about it, is that When the print run is made, a certain percentage of it is meant to be held back for ePack purposes. And then that ePack stuff goes to COMC. COMC is the one who's actually fulfilling it. They're the ones who take the images. They're the ones who are going to provide you the cards. Because even though you've got the ePack platform, if you ask to ship it, it's COMC that's shipping it to you because they've got to have the cards in hand and photographed and all that stuff. But my frustration is this. I understand that the statement has been a certain percentage of the print run is held, but I have to seriously question the maths related to some of these because there is one thing when you use one of the criticisms I have of people. You're using anecdotal evidence as evidence, and it's something we do a lot. It's we got to be careful. Just because that's your experience doesn't mean that's the truth for the whole of everybody. But when you've got a product, so I'll use 2023 flagship for example, a product that's been out for well over a year, and you've got some of the short printed cards. So one of the examples I'll use is photo variations. So that's an example. Photo variations for a lot of them are 1 in 480 packs. Well, there's 12 cards in a pack, 12 packs in a box. That's 144 packs in a case. So that's a fair number of packs. However, that means a photo variation is 1 in like 3.5 cases, give or take, somewhere in that vicinity. So not easy, but not impossible. But when you watch and also over the course of a year, open a bunch of boxes yourself, participate in multi case breaks over the course of the print run, and you have a year of people opening boxes, people like money, Brandon. So if there is a short print, you're probably going to sell it most of the time within the beginning month or so of release, because that's when you're most likely to get the most money. So if you pull a good card, probably it's going to surface at some point, especially if it's not 1 in 50,000 packs. 1 in 480 packs, there should be a fair number of them that should circulate and get out there. Months go by, I don't see the photo variant. I don't even see it. Forget about having a chance to bid on it. I don't even see it. Not even from the other collectors that I know. Don't even see that. Then ePack shows up. 12 hours, Brandon. It took 12 hours for like 5 of them to be on ePack. And I'm sitting there like, Brandon, this is the look on my face. Brother, like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing out here?
I mean, it's always been a good question because we don't have all of those details. Like when they say a percentage, that's like an air quotes question mark. You know, what is the percentage? Mm-hmm. And they can throw out.
Is the percentage 95%? Is that
well,
the
they
percentage?
Can throw out, 1 in 480 packs, but then it's likely followed by a hashtag allegedly, because you have to question sometimes. You mentioned the maths. You have to question the maths a lot on this stuff because there's no way to hold to it, being the stuff gets jumbled up, sent around everywhere, breaks are happening so much. The odds become so obscure. But you're right. If in a year you're not seeing any of them, and then it's real weird that in 12 hours, 5, 6 of them pop out of ePack, you got to start questioning things. I ask about the 101 Bedard when that whole bounty thing, which we still have never seen to my knowledge, was that going to be an ePack thing? Just joking, because we've seen shit like that before. I mean, look at taking it to another manufacturer, Topps. It's well known that if you base the odds, people are going to go out and spend the money buying hobbies and jumbos because they feel it's the best way to get the best cards because you can get the autos and everything. But more often than not, the 101 flagship rookie of whoever the hot guy is normally is coming out of a retail product because there's so much more of the retail made that when you play it into the odds, that's where they wind up. So the odds are, I think they're there for technicality's sake, legality's sake, but holding to them sometimes I think is a bunch of BS. And then you throw in the added element of the electronic packs, and what percentage we don't know is supposed to be allocated for that. You're getting even more obscurity with the odds and everything. I'm not saying they're doing it intentional. They're not, I'm not saying they're trying to fraudulently do anything. I just think there's so much product made now to mathematically break it all down. They can say what it should be, but I don't think it ever correlates. And it would
Well,
be
I don't
nice to
think
know
I think
what
to your point,
percentage
I don't
goes
think it's
over.
hand. Yeah, to your point, I don't think it's hand packed, and maybe that's the
Right.
problem. If your intention is to break a certain percentage of it down, you would almost want to. Like I said, I don't pretend to know exactly how would do because just imagine for the sake of this conversation, if the way you did it is did the entire print run, and you put the equivalent of X number of cases into the ePack system. Well, cases are cases. Some cases might have
Hmm.
a greater preponderance of certain things. Well, if the cases that have more of certain type of insert wind up in the ePack circulation versus the physical, then the physical ones, like I've seen great cases and I've seen bad cases, and I've seen cases that are somewhere in between, both in physical and in ePack. But it's one of those things where, and this was a conversation I had with somebody that was on the wrestling channel, and it was a good point. It's and this is kind of an interesting little twist on this one, Brandon, because ePack is electronic. In a way, whenever you're opening packs in that one, you've got the digital cards and the physical cards. The base are all digital, but then the inserts and everything else is physical. So they're all there.
Hmm.
They're part of the listing and everything. But imagine this. When you're doing your stuff, you can buy by the box, you can buy by the case, and you can buy by the individual pack. What's funny is that I've had a decent amount of good luck buying 4 and 5 packs at a time. I don't buy boxes in ePack. I'll buy 4 and 5 packs at a time just for fun, open a couple, and then whatever. But I've had plenty of times where I've beaten the odds very nicely on 4 and 5 packs that I've done better than people who buy entire boxes. So what's interesting, and this would be a question that I would leave for the upper deck engineers that are involved in ePack, because you can do packs and you can do boxes and you can do cases. If you're buying individual packs, in theory, you're pulling packs out of circulation, right? Because you've got boxes and cases. It would be the same as if you went to a store and just grabbed individual packs. But it would be like if you bought individual packs, but then every time you do it, the packs get reshuffled. So
Right.
the odds are still the same. The odds haven't changed. But what if, Brandon, in the reshuffle, my 5 packs all have numbered inserts in them? So I happen to get the 5 pack because it's like I'm reshuffling the deck every time. So I'm buying 5 packs and then maybe I buy 5 packs tomorrow and I buy. So really, if you've got 15 packs in a box, buying 5 packs 3 times individually is not the same as grabbing the first five, the next five, and the next five. No, it's grabbing 5 from the whole pool and then grabbing 5 from the whole pool and then grabbing 5 from the whole pool a third time. So I could be getting the hits from multiple boxes, random number generated to me.
Well, another thing, and I don't know where they're at today, how the products are completely produced or anything, but we do know that back in the day and on certain products, they would release in waves because they wouldn't have the full product allocation printed and available for a release day. So some of it would go out, to order, fulfill orders, shops, all of that. But then they would continuously print to finish the remaining of the product. There was a big thing. I want to say it was National Treasures Odell Beckham RPAs. I
Okay.
think if I remember correctly, Wave One, nobody could pull an Odell Beckham, and he was like, popular rookie. Nobody could pull one, and that's because they never packed them in the initial Wave One. They wound up showing up starting in Wave Two. So
Mhm.
I don't know if that's still a thing today, especially with some of the delays in products. If they just get some of it done, get it out to the shelf, get it to the market, and then maybe that's where some of this obscurity comes from because, oh well, we haven't even printed this insert set yet, and it hasn't gotten fulfilled in there. I don't know. It's just this isn't, accusation. This is just possibilities because we've seen things like that happen where products are released in waves. So um, maybe that's why if ePack is since it's held and it's released later than initial physical product, could that be some of it? Some of this stuff just wasn't finished in time for street release. So okay, we'll get it to ComC and we'll just slip it in there, and those folks can have fun there. Who knows? But it's just a possibility.
Well, all I'll say is that, like I said, I tend to be on the side of not necessarily going tinfoil hat on a lot of this stuff, but it's become a running joke to the point that it's now a little bit on the frustrating side. I'll just encapsulate it this way. I don't subscribe to a conspiracy theory on it, but I do think it can, because it comes down to something as simple as what I said a few minutes ago about maths
Hmm.
and the nature of the type of. As I said, imagine for a second, Brandon, if you took the physical,
What is the
imagine everything was
checklist?
physical.
What is the checklist size on the particular variation thing that you're talking about?
On the variants, I'll pull it up. I can grab it.
Because I know you
There is
said
a
one in
limited.
480, and even if it's 10 card or 10 card checklist, then you're at one in 4,800 for individual character. Um, and these ones you're seeing, I'm assuming are all different people.
For the most part, yes, that's the idea. Is that they're supposed to be different people, and I will pull it up here. It'll take me a minute. I think I'm putting it under. Are you putting it under inserts? Let's see. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, so it'll take me a minute. But what I will say is that it was just. I found it very interesting, from my perspective, that when we went in there and tried to figure out, like, okay, well, this is what should be going on with these. This is what's happening with these things. I just thought it was very interesting. Okay, so the list of the photo variants is 25 different characters have a photo variation.
And it's one in 480 packs.
That is right.
Okay, yeah. So that's quite a bit. I mean, what is the let's see, 480 times 25. So you're looking at one in 12,000 packs for any individual character without duplicates or whatever. So yeah, that's pretty significant there. But I I wasn't trying to tinfoil or conspiracy with what I was saying. I know that the more product releases we're getting, and I don't mean separate individual products. I'm talking product type for an individual product. So I'll use Tops as an example here. You look at Tops flagship and how many different product types they offer with retail, the hobby stuff. Then it's going around to all the breakers and all this other stuff. It's hard to accurately determine what the odds are going to be because some of these inserts and everything else are winding up in so many different options of packs. You, especially on the serial number stuff, you almost don't know where your odds are best to try to get what you're actually looking for. I'm assuming this only has like a hobby version and an ePack version, so those odds of 1 in 480 should be more streamlined, and it is very weird if that many popped up electronically, whereas you're saying it's just been non-existent in physical product form. So that would, it would be nice if we could get a little bit more clarity into to how they do that sort of thing and even percentages. Like you just said, it's a 25 card checklist. That's one in 12,000 to complete the full checklist on the pack side. Kind of gives you an idea of maybe potential, print run of it, and then how much of that, what is the percentage going over to ePack? So,
I
or
think
maybe
something it
just,
would be interesting.
or is there a way for, and I don't know that they could accurately determine this, but what do you think the percentage is of people opening the ePack versus physical?
So that is a very good question. I don't know. The My understanding, again, we don't know the exact percentages, but my understanding was that physical should have more boxes. That should be the bigger number because that was my understanding in the past. Maybe that's changed. But I think where it's become interesting, and just to put it into perspective, is that if I go and search on eBay, now again, it's been a while, but I'll use 2024 because it's brand new, brand new, just came out on ePack. I've got, just looking at eBay right now, I've got a couple that are on ComC. Well, the ones on ComC came from ePack, just for the record. If I see it from ComC, it's from ePack. So in terms of not from ComC, I see one, I see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards right now. That's what I see. Actually, sorry, 5 cards. 5 cards I see because 2 of them are sponsored. So it's just a duplication. So I'm not going to count it twice. So I see 5 cards. I see 18 on ePack right now. And when I say
Holy
18,
jeez.
when I say 18, I actually mean 18 separate SKUs because one of the people has one. So let me go 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So in reality, there are 13. So I see 13 physical copies of an image variation of an ePack product that just started last week.
Now, are you seeing any solds?
That I'm going to check now. So I will check on sold. But the point is, can you see why though? Well, I said I don't subscribe to the tinfoil hat though. But if you wanted to, you're being given plenty of ammunition. It's kind of hard to say you're not being given plenty of ammo because it's kind of hard to say that you're not because it's
Yeah,
not very big.
it would be interesting to know how much is opened on ePack, like over the course of the week to have that many pop out too. Because
So I
that
know for a fact on ePack there's definitely a ton, but it's just kind of interesting that it worked out that way because, and the reason I say this, the reason it's interesting it works out that way is because it's not like ePack is at a discount. It's
right,
not. It costs in reality about the same as the going retail rate. So once a product has been out for a while and it starts getting discounted, the physical boxes are actually cheaper. So people
right.
are literally, there are whales that'll open cases of it. But that's basically, without saying so, Upper Deck has effectively told you that if you want some of these rare inserts, basically hold off. And then when ePack shows up and these whales start pulling it and they just want to get their money back, you'll be able to buy the stuff available. So for my dentist PC thing, both of the image variations I bought in the last couple of weeks, both came from ePack, and I got them at a fraction of what they would have cost when the product first came out.
Well, I I was someone back during the pandemic that said I think the ePack style is very smart, and I'm surprised that more of the manufacturers haven't moved into a format offering like that because it saves so much. You don't have shipping costs, of the product. You don't have the waste of the packaging, any of that kind of stuff. You can offer it right there. Like during the pandemic when people couldn't find it, they were waiting at 3 a.m. outside of Target or whatever. Like it would literally be right there on an app in the palm of your hand, right? It also would allow them to see what sales are like and production and everything else. They wouldn't have to print the base stuff unless they did some sort of thing where if you collect 5 of the same base, you could turn it in for something special, or complete a set or whatever and get a special set. Who
Yeah, the
knows? There's
achievement stuff.
ways.
The achievement
Yeah,
stuff.
there's
Yeah.
ways you could do things like that, but outside of that, it would just be your inserts or parallels or whatever. So there's a lot of benefit that could come from it, and I'm surprised it hasn't became more popular, especially today when we've seen the aspect of the gambling. Why is I don't want to spill the name out there, but whatnot. Why did it become so popular? Is because people can just jump on there, and it's basically like an electronic casino at the palm of their hand. Imagine if they just go on and buy the electronic packs. I mean, people would be literally just buy, and I'm really surprised it hasn't transferred over to Panini and Topps and Fanatics and all that, and become more of the option than the physical product. But
Yeah.
that's why I was curious how much activity ePack is seeing having that digital platform at the palm, especially when the day and age feels more gamble than enjoyment of opening the cards or whatever.
Yep. I think it's like I said, to your point, I think it's been interesting to observe it. It is kind of funny, and I'll give one more anecdote, and then I'll actually hit on one point that you kind of touched on. So just as we were talking, I was looking it up. I was able to find a grand total of 6 sold photo variations from that same. So I'm sticking to 2024 flagship. 6 photo variations sold on eBay since September 2024. So there
And
are
you said
less
there's like
sold
five
and
listed.
active. Yeah, there are less sold and active than are sitting on ePack right now
in a week.
in a week.
Yeah. So that's where the tinfoil comes in and
Yeah. And
opens
by the
the
way,
door.
my search is in Terapeak, and I'm going back 3 years.
Right.
I'm not giving it. I'm basically saying, like, if it put 2024 AEW photo variant, that I wanted
Are
everything,
these
anything that's sold.
are these the ones like with the tooth in the background?
No, no, not that, not that one.
I was
Not that one.
asking in a serious way because I wanted to make sure maybe people were
The tooth
overlooking
was
it.
actually tougher. The tooth was actually tougher.
Right. I was thinking maybe people were overlooking it because like when me and Eric seen that card, we didn't really know what the hell was going on with it. So I was
It
thinking,
is
well, is it
possible.
something that people could glance over and not even realize it's something special?
Yeah, the
So
one you're talking about is retouched. Retouched is the
okay, yeah,
infamous.
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Well, like I said, it makes for an interesting question that I would put out there just because of the nature of it. It is kind of funny in its own way. Like I said, if you want some tinfoil hat, we can do it. And all I gotta say is earlier today, one of the cards in there is the memorabilia, because they've got the memorabilia on there. They've got, used mat, and then they've got shirts, so shirt relics and mat relics. And then the mat relic, there's a red version. Well, in the 2024, the mat relic is numbered to 5, so they're very tough. So far for the dentists, there have been a grand total of 0, except for the one that popped up on eBay and wound up on ComC, and I bought it. So I'm just saying, 1 week.
ePack has been fruitful.
Basically at this point, I just wait for ePack, and it's like, if I can't find it, I wait for ePack, and that's when it suddenly magically shows up. That's all I'm saying. Now, one more thing I'll touch on real quick, since you did briefly mention the whole thing with the achievements. When I did my most recent pickup video, I was talking about that, and I had shown that card previously, and I had it as part of my mail day. And a lot of people commented on it in that channel when they were talking about it, because I do have some folks that watch the wrestling channel. And one of the cards on there was actually an achievement insert. You had to fulfill certain things in order to get the achievement cards. And my point that I made in the video itself is, I said a disappointment for me is, I understand the idea of coming up with these achievements, which are kind of a cool thing for folks that, especially these whales that are participating on ePack, and they're buying a crap ton of this product, again, at no discount. Upper Deck doesn't want to undercut its own dealers by selling the boxes at a discount, because that would be bad business. I understand it. But these achievements are kind of a thing that incentivizes them to open this product, because you can pull these special cards. Well, these special cards do have physical copies, so they did make them. But what I was kind of concerned with was that while it's cool they came up with these cards, the ones that they came up with, once I got them in hand, it was exactly what I thought it was. It was kind of this cool acetate card with rainbow foil shine to it and a whole bunch of things related to it. And honestly, it is an excellent looking card. Like, it's a very good looking card. And I showcased it on my Instagram. And the picture doesn't really do it justice. But the point that I was making, and that's the reason I'm just bringing it up here at the end. So here's an example right there. It's called Queens of the Ring. So it's an acetate card, but it's got the rainbow foil with kind of a see-through top, see-through in the middle there, and the crown. They've got this whole design and everything, and the whole thing is kind of this rainbow foil design. And my thing was, it looks better than most of the inserts in the physical boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there like, that would be a really cool card for me to chase in the physical box. So I'm like, it's one thing to create an incentive for the people participating in ePack, which is fine, and I don't disagree with it. You want to create incentives, but I'm sitting there like, but it just looks a lot cooler than the stuff you're actually putting in the boxes. I'm just saying, like, I'm being punished for buying the physical boxes, because even the coolest cards don't necessarily always measure up, because I'm like, that you could call that a case hit, and a lot of people would really like it. I think they would really appreciate. Look, I'm not saying we didn't love Retouched. I'm not saying we didn't love Retouched with the tooth. The Retouched with the tooth and that Queens of the Ring card, Brandon, I'm saying if you made that card the one that was like 1 in 2,400 packs or whatever, I don't think people would fight you on it too hard.
Well, and the other thing with the achievements is they're not an odds factor, because the beauty with
Yeah.
the ePack is you can go on and trade and all of that other stuff. So it encourages not just someone to go on and spend a bunch of money, but it encourages cards being a hobby and trying to help each other like complete an achievement of sorts. And then you get a cool ass card like that. To your point, why aren't you giving us, like, if anybody from Overdict's listening, okay, I was talking to Wes and I said, it's kind of crazy and I doubt anybody would predict this, but I have bought only football cards so far this year, except for one card I purchased hockey off of Wes. It was the Robertson Rubies. And part of the reason for that is I, even though I enjoy collecting the stars and and the Robertson PC and everything, the sets like in the cards that have came out, I'm not really enjoying most of them. I'll go on ComC, just as you mentioned. I'll wait for the ePack stuff to hit. I'll go on and look and see what inserts and things like that. Excuse me. Sorry about that.
Bless you.
Man, it hit me out of nowhere. Anyway, I'll go on and see what pops up there. Some cheap stuff that looks cool or whatever. There's nothing that's I'm like chasing. Like there's nothing that's like I gotta have that. There's no I I don't know. It's taking some of that draw away of that's really cool. I need that, you know?
Sure.
So
But I think one thing that I'll touch on just to make sure that I convey it as well is that the thing with achievements, to your point, it does motivate trading kind of
mhm.
because you can definitely that can be part of it. But the thing is this, and this would be kind of my key point. Yes, there's trading. I'm in Facebook groups where the guys are like, "Hey, I'm trying to do this achievement. I've got this, I can trade you this for this and whatever." And that's all part of it. Yes. But the thing is that, Brandon, let's be realistic about it. Let's be fair. If Eric goes off in the distance, he joined me in the to be fair.
To be
But just
fair,
imagine it was there. To be fair.
yeah.
Here's the thing. In order to have enough trade bait, Brandon, realistically, you go after some of those because the achievements themselves are not easy. To get a
Mhm.
nice looking card like that, the achievement actually takes a bit of work, and you generally have to complete some inserts or base sets. Generally speaking, you're not getting a card like that for the base set. You're getting it
Right.
for one of the inserts or a parallel or an insert, itself. And the inserts themselves, based on the odds or whatever the case may be a certain challenge to complete. And in order to have the requisite trade bait to make it worthwhile for someone to trade you to help you towards this achievement, there's a good chance you probably open cases of product.
Oh
So it's
yeah.
not like, yeah, but I'm just saying, what I'm getting at though is it's not like the rank and file collector is the one who's putting together these achievements. It tends to be the guys who are buying a crap ton of product. Well, because there's no discount, Brandon, the crap ton of product, the cases themselves are not cheap. So like just have to imagine if you open up cases of it, then yeah, you should get an achievement for the amount of money that you're spending on it because you're basically the whale. You are the whale. So in that point, I can't argue. Like I would say like 100%. So right now I've got it in front of me for 2024 Upper Deck AEW for a case of the product on ePack. It's $1,349.99.
So I'm trying to figure out how to say this without going more tinfoil hat. But you're leading me back down that path because think about this a second. You mentioned the product's been out long enough that physical product is likely cheaper.
Yeah.
ePack isn't going to be discounted because they're not going to undercut distributors, shops and all of that.
Yep.
But then they have an added element to not discount because of the potential and added benefit of the achievements. Do you think that because of that, and I know there's several different ways to do the achievements and there are several different requirements and all of that, it all depends on what you're going after and all of that. But do you think having the achievements means that they do have to have enough allocation over there to make the achievements possible and have enough to also make sure there's enough achievements that can be done? which may swing some of the percentages towards ePack.
So I think I get what you're saying, and what I would say to you is that I get your general premise on this, but I think that with, especially given the nature of some of these achievements, so I'm actually pulling them up to make sure I quote this correctly. Given some of the nature of some of the achievements, there is enough product that still is sitting on shelves, like physical product, even after a year, that you could have a lot of physical product and still have a lot of ePack product. Because it's not like it's a flagship, because I'm talking about literally a flagship product. So it's one of those things where it is very possible to have that, and still be able to provide for both of those things. So that's kind of where I think it's kind of interesting. And I'm just pulling it up here just so that I can see. I want to make sure I get this correct. And let me see if I can find it. So, for example, I'll give you an example. So, one of the achievements from the 2023 product, the first 1,500 collectors to complete a We Are All Elite Silver Parallel set of 40 cards. So, they put 1,500 on there. So, it is possible to do that. So, to your point, you could kind of extrapolate some of the numbers based on some of this idea. Now, I think, so for example, if you, in order to get the card that I just showed, the specific one, because each one of the achievements has different ones. So for the insert set of those achievement cards, each one of them has their own requirement.
Mm-hmm.
So to earn card number 1 in that set, you got to do this. To earn card number 2 in that set, you got to do this, et cetera, et cetera. And then to earn card number 5, you got to get cards number 1 through 4. So you got to do all the things that that were outlined previously. So in order to get that Britt Baker card, you have to redeem a complete Mic Check insert set, which is totally doable, an AEW All Elite Women's set, and Excalibur's picks. So I think it's a total of 50 cards. You do those 50 cards, you get all those complete insert sets based on this ePack product, which is doable. Then you get one of those. Then card number 2 is complete a UD Canvas set, which is 100 cards. That'll get you the second card. Then a complete Dazzler's Blue set of 50 cards. That'll get you the third card. A complete Mic Check.
So far, I'm real quick. So far, I'm not hearing anything difficult to pull though, because like the canvases and the dazzlers and stuff like that, they're more of your, I don't want to say common, but they're not, they're not case hits. They're
the point of a lot of these is not that they are case hits, because pulling case hits to pull another achievement card is kind of pointless.
Right.
The thing is, so even if I just use the UD Canvas though, you're not getting enough UD Canvases in a box to get to 100 maybe? Cards. What's that?
Probably 3, 4 per case,
something like that
per box.
Yeah. So with Perfect Coalition, that's 25 boxes. And remember, I said in a case is $1,350 US.
Yeah.
So like, do you understand? Like, even though it's not a case hit, it's not, and but you could do trading. Yeah, but then you got to have stuff to trade, right?
Right.
So you got to be able to play this game. Yeah. So you still gotta, basically, you gotta be a case breaker, realistically, to either pull the cards or to have the trading fodder to then be able to swap. Because what happens is they go on the Facebook group and go, hey, I'm going after this achievement. I got 40 of these cards. These last 6, these are the 60 that I need, trade me, check out my thing, and, offer trades. So even if you're saying like, oh, you've got this nice, maybe one of the memorabilia cards, I'll give you 6 of the canvases for that, or 10 of the canvases for that. Okay, great. But that means people still have to open the boxes. You still got to have the canvases to trade. Or on the other side, you got to have the memorabilia card to trade, or whatever, parallel or something. So the point is, you're probably opening cases, Brandon. Well, Brandon, even if I say 2 cases, that's $2,700.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a couple of bucks. Just so we're clear on this. And by the way, that achievement card, the one I just showed you, I bought my copy once I was able to, and I was happy. I actually have a second, so, because I'm a hoarder. But the point is that on ePack, on ComC, once they started getting the achievements started rolling in and people started completing it, you could have gotten it for like $35.
All of that for a $35 card.
Yeah. So that's what I'm getting. And by the way, it's a beautiful card. And in relative terms, it's actually kind of limited relative to some of the other ones. The point is, Brandon, like, the maths don't math, if you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
That's a lot of #effort,
There's still a Robertson. I can't remember the name of this set, but there's still, I can't find the last one I need for the the rainbow or whatever you want to call it of it. And I think it's an ePack only pull. I think Wes might have got one. I can't remember if it's achievement or not. But yeah, some of that stuff is hard to find on there.
Yeah,
And sometimes
exactly.
it's not. So
Yeah, and that's my only point that I'm making here. All I'm trying to say, so that we're all on the same page and we understand each other, is that I'm saying that in order to participate in that style, you're probably going to be opening a lot of that material, and you're not getting it at a discount. So now here's the good news. Good news and bad news, right? The good news is if you're a singles buyer, when ePack finally rolls out, there's a good chance that now you can make a pitch. You can go to those ePack folks who are now looking to get their money back and be like, hey, man, hey, sir, madam, whatever. I want to trade money for that card that I want. And a lot of times they're like, money? I love money. Great. Glad to hear it. And we can come to an arrangement. It's like, I had that specifically happen. The 2024 one has been out for a week. One of the guys on the Facebook group pulled the photo variant of the card I'm talking about. I bought both of the last photo variants in the last couple of weeks from 23 and 24. So those two different sets. The second one showed up this past week, and the guy had it on ePack. And when we're doing the transaction, we don't even need to account for shipping, Brandon, because I have an ePack account. He's like, okay, well, if we come to an agreement on the total, then I'll just send it over to your ePack. So then what happens? People make a deal, we come to an arrangement, and then you do a trade on ePack. Well, the trade is I'm going to take a common card that you don't give a shit about, and I'll trade you the card that you just bought. And that's the trade. And the ePack system takes care of it. And guess what? Now I got my card. I can put it in my ComC account. And when I'm ready to ship it out next time, it's going to go with the stuff I'm shipping. That's the transaction. I traded money for the card. And now I have the card. But it is discouraging, though, Brandon, as someone who does like to open the product as well, it is discouraging that you, again, whether true or not, you are feeding into the narrative that you've got no shot at pulling some of these cards because you'll open a bunch, you'll participate in case breaks, which I have. And again, buying just a one slot for one character is not very expensive. So I can take it, I can try over a course of a case. But the reality is I'll pull some nice cards here and there, and I've done okay on those. But the reality is that if you're in case breaks, plural, and watching case breaks, even if you're not participating in it, just sitting back, waiting for somebody else to hopefully pull it, and case after case after case after case gets opened, and they don't come out, and you're sitting there like, this card's out of 50. Why isn't even this shouldn't be this difficult? And then
you should do ePack versus box battles on your wrestling channel.
versus the problem is I can't afford to be paying on the ePack boxes because they're costing me more than full price. The physical box is cheaper.
Well, what you said you buy like 4 or 5 packs.
On ePack, yeah, sure.
Yeah, do a couple packs versus a full box of physical. And see
which one
would come out better.
My ePack would probably still win.
That's my point, though.
Look, all I'm saying, I'm not saying yes, content. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying for AEW Metal, I might have opened 5 packs and pulled a gold PMG. I'm just saying.
Which is a 101 for those that don't know.
Yeah. And I opened well over a case, Brandon, and I didn't pull shit. Remotely close to that. Sorry. Nope.
That was just coincidence.
Like I said, there are a lot of coincidences. I've had a lot of coincidences with a lot of these products. And again, I opened almost 2 cases of Allure. And by the way, on Allure, I did very well. But I opened like the odd 5-pack badges in here. Oh, out of 10 autograph. Uh-huh. Okay. I see what's going on. Fair enough. But anyway. All right. So that's our conspiracy theory segment for this episode. Hope you all enjoyed. Save up on your tinfoil. Like I said, we'll see. I just thought it was funny, and it's like I said, it's a little discouraging. The good news is the singles are starting to crop up and appear, so that's cool. And by the way, there is another dentist achievement for the new 2024. So I'm waiting, Brandon. I'm waiting for the new cool achievement card that I'm going to buy and trade money for. It'll be very exciting. Anyway, all right. One other thing I wanted to touch on, kind of opposite, kind of on the other side of it, something that I've been working on is I discussed that I was looking at doing some consolidation. So I thought we would spend the remainder of today's episode talking a little bit about consolidation because obviously it's a popular topic. A lot of people do like it. I've specifically been looking at one segment of my collection, but this could apply to everything. It could apply to any segment you want. One of the things we talk about is the old not swell fellow up there, Brett Favre, overseeing the proceedings. I've got my collection of the Not Swell Fella PC, and I've been able to accumulate a lot of different cards that are very fun. And I just found different cards that I liked and I would grab them. And basically, as I went along, I kept throwing them into a box. And then after a while, I reached a point recently where the box was starting to get a little bit full. And I've got a 1600 count 2 row box, got graded cards and a lot of refractors from the 90s and stuff like that. Mirror gold, really cool cards. Some that is stuff that I'm a big fan of. And as I went along, though, I said, okay, my goal was never to make this exhaustive Not Swell Fella PC. I kind of want quality over quantity. So I said, okay, well, I think it's time now to start going through and doing a little bit of a ruthless review of everything and saying, like, which ones are the ones that I really like? I bought them all because I said, hey, that'd be kind of cool. Some of them I just wanted to see in hand. I wanted to see it for myself. I do have a Z Folio binder. I have one of those top loader binders. So there are other cards in that as well. And though anything that fits in there, that's fine. But I'm talking about what's in the box. You know, these autographed inserts and memorabilia inserts and stuff like that. And I said, I don't need all of this stuff. And some of it I clearly like more than others. So the question is, what's the stuff I like the most? So I decided to do like a little mini ranking. As I go through, I'm like, all right, what's the stuff that needs to stay? What's the stuff that needs to go? This ultimate card with, you know, these on card autographs. Well, that's a cool card. That stays. This other one over here is a memorabilia autograph with a really cool looking design and everything. That one stays. I got a Johnny Manziel, Brett Favre, dual auto memorabilia. That's just funny. I love that. This little booklet card, that's fun. I like that. That stays. So basically, I did that exercise all the way up both rows of this of it. And as I went through and I started putting everything together, I grabbed stuff. Basically, I'll use an example here. I just got it off screen. So here's like a Lone Star Stadium Club Lone Star signature of Brett. It is graded, but it's an on-card auto. This is a nice card, but compared to some of the other ones, I don't like it as much. I still like it. It's a nice card, but I'm sitting there going like, well, I could probably consolidate out of this and to move it into something else. So I ended up maybe getting about a dozen cards. Some of them are autographed and a couple of different. I built a little stack, and I basically said, okay, let's start moving out of these, and then we'll use the proceeds for my other collecting pursuits. Could be some more Brett Favre's, could be other things, whatever. So I already had some success with that. I listed 2 cards. So this was one that I listed on Sunday, and another one was a flawless autograph that I have. But while it's a very nice card, it's just an auto. There's no memorabilia or anything to it. It's just an auto. Very clean design. If you're familiar with flawless, it's got a lot of white space. Some of them are very nice. It's a nice card. It's low numbered and everything. And much to my surprise, it only lasted a couple hours. So I put it on. I went and looked up what I paid for it before. I wasn't expecting to make money on it. That wasn't a concern. I bought it for PC purposes. I wasn't sitting there counting pennies to try to make money on it. But I did end up making money on it, actually. I ended up pricing it well, and then I got an offer on it. And with fees and everything, I ended up making about $90 on top of what I had paid for it and bought it in 2023. So I bought it in 2023, got to enjoy it for a while. It was part of the collection, but then I sold it and I made about $90 profit on top of everything else. So now I get to start building up the coffers. So now I'm going to start setting some money aside. So these other ones, I'm trying to figure out exactly how I want to sell them, either through eBay or through doing a little consignment and getting them to do. The only thing the issue that I have, Brandon, this is less of an issue for you because you have done reselling for a while. I don't like the day-to-day interactions with a lot of it. I don't mind selling some items. I obviously do it, and I did. I literally shipped out the 1 card because the guy paid immediately, which is awesome. So I shipped out the 1 card today. I just don't like dealing with a lot of the random questions. Hey, can you
Yeah.
just get it out? I'm trying to sell this stuff so that I can put some money into an account for some coffers. That's what I'm trying to do so I can consolidate. I don't need all the stuff. I just want some of the stuff. So it's a very long preamble and a lot of information, but I just wanted to get some thoughts on that.
So this will burn some collectors' ears because they don't feel that we should ever let go of things. And I'm not saying that's everybody, but there are those out there that don't understand that it's part of this being a hobby. It's part of this, and part of you being a collector. Now, there's nothing wrong if you're someone that wants to hold on to everything, that, by all means. But I think as a collector, we're constantly looking to add things, but we also maybe at times get to the point where we're like, let me scale it back a little bit. and that makes it fun as well. So I have been talking about, I've worked on this several times, and I think it's a, if you are ever content, then you might want to reevaluate where you're at, because I think as a collector, we are always changing. We're always finding new things. We're always, our interests are ever evolving. And I think it's perfectly fine if you're constantly removing and replacing. Now, if you're just always adding, what happens? Well, just like Carlos said, he went through a box and he found stuff that was like, it's cool, but I don't need to keep it, right? And if it's just sitting there in a box, there's no harm if you can let it go to someone else who may enjoy it. Someone else may think that Stadium Club Lone Star signature is the most awesome Brett Favre autograph that ever has existed. There might be somebody that's been trying to complete that set. Who knows? But let it go. Let it go to them. Let them enjoy it. Let them use it for whatever they may. And then Carlos can get money to put into something that he may want better. Maybe one of those variations pops up that he just has to have, and he'll have the money for it. So I find that I am always reevaluating my collection. I'm always in my brain like, do I really need all of this? Because it is easy as hell to buy. Very easy to just continue buying. But then when you look around, you can't even enjoy it all because you wind up with so much. I've said I've forgotten that I owned things. We put some of this stuff in a box. We get it in the mail. We look at it. We might do a video, share it, talk about it, post some pictures, whatever. Throw it in a box, and you might forget you own it. Like, why have it if you forget about it? It wasn't that important to you. It was the excitement of winning it on an auction or buy it now or whatever, getting it in the mail, sharing it, playing show and tell. And that was about the extent of it. So I am all for always evaluating. Maybe even, I don't know that I could do this myself, so I don't want to say it's a great idea, but it's something that has been contemplated, making like a top X, top 50, top 100, whatever. You might have to break it down for sport or player or whatever to do that. But
well, I assume though, if you did like a top 100, I just assumed it'd be 100 Robertson cards, and then you'd be like sitting there like, oh, but can I rank all my Robertsons 1 to 100?
you want to know the truth though? Like, the Robertson's a running joke. I don't think I have 100 of his cards.
Brandon, that doesn't matter. What you do is however many cards you have, you go one to however many, and then you just duplicate the list. You just do it again.
I would probably
same card twice.
I don't want to be harsh, but the 1 year I was buying Metal Universe and he wasn't even the damn set. So that got me ticked off. And then, trying to figure out what year we're on with Upper Deck product and is he in it and what insert set is it? Does the card look good? I've just been letting it be. I'll also say, okay, and I want to talk about this further in when I show these cards off, but the two cards that I've gotten in recently have epitomized something that I think we all should really evaluate when we're adding to our collection. Because after I got them in and I reflected back on the Flacco and the whole ride of that, it didn't happen overnight. In fact, when did I start talking to you about buying a Flacco? 2.5, 3 years ago, probably.
It was a while, and it became a running joke. You and the saga of Wacko for Flacco, and then we ended up with Wacko for Flacco, and it took on another life of its own.
Right, because I was evaluating them. I think the first time I reached out to you, I was like, in your opinion, which one would you go after, the NT or the Exquisite? And I was asking several people this because, they're both higher end cards of his. And so I was in this debate of which one did I want, what kind of patch did I want on it, that kind of. I knew the price range that they should be at. I was just more of trying to figure out which one and what kind of patch. And then all of a sudden he goes to the Browns and takes them to the playoffs and all hell breaks loose. But anyway, one has been secured now. And when I look back on all of that, it's like somebody paid $1,000 freaking for one of those cards. And I'm thinking, holy shit. Like, I could have been that person. I could have been the person that just, and I've done it. I mean, the Roberts, I love collecting Jefferson Robertson, but let's not pretend that if I had just been patient, what is this cup RPA today? 400 or 500 bucks, maybe? I'm pretty sure I gave 12 for mine. So that's had me thinking, just be patient. We don't need the instant gratification on some of this stuff. That Chad, I've been chasing, I've been trying to win one of those for a couple years. The last two that sold, I think I got this one for about 50 bucks cheaper than those went for. It's
Mhm.
timing. It's, just having that patience. More will pop up unless it's a 101 or just, apparently AEW variations that don't pop up out of physical boxes. But,
Just when ePack shows up. Just
yeah,
wait
this
until
one you
ePack shows
pack.
up and it's
But
all
if you're patient, they will arrive.
there.
Yeah,
They force your hand because you don't have a
yeah.
choice.
But no, I mean, in all seriousness, like, I think it's been nice to sit back and not feel the need to have that rush of constant buying or whatever. Pick out and identify things that I would like to add and just wait for the right moment. Don't feel the need to just go out and buy the first one because it's there. Because there's a lot of times that you can save yourself a hell of a lot of money just by waiting. So, um, I'm all for it. I'm all for skinning the fat. I think we should always be constantly evolving. Our interests change all the time. I one thing that I've looked at, I used to not really be into watching TV much, and I heard you talking. Instead of the Four Nations, you were watching some TV show that you really enjoyed,
Yeah, I was
and
watching Reacher.
yeah, and I'm finding that I actually enjoy sitting down in the evening and watching some, a couple TV shows and stuff. I enjoy The Walking Dead. I've actually started rewatching it again, and they have cards. I have some of those in my collection, and so it's more like there's always room for expansion, but I don't think there's anything wrong with deducting to add, if that makes any sense. Go through,
Mhm.
find out what really hits you, what really is important to you. Keep those. Let the other stuff that you just bought on a whim or there was a good deal or it popped up or whatever, let those go and then reallocate the funds into something else that might pop up that you like. So I'm all
Mhm.
for it.
Now, a couple of things that kind of what you were saying led me down. So, like I said, folks, this portion of the conversation will be just kind of us talking out loud and kind of talking through the concept, because it's a simple enough concept, consolidation. But I think there are some considerations. I mentioned in my preamble that part of the exercise, was that I went through the box and I had accumulated different stuff. And I'll actually, as we're talking, I'll show a couple of cards, but I'll kind of explain kind of the thought process, the logic behind it, because there is a logic. It's not just a rhyme or reason thing. But I think one important key that you kind of indirectly hit on is it helps that I had already been collecting that stuff for a little while. I had
Hmm.
had the opportunity from my perspective. So that's why when I was talking about that flawless card, I want to be clear. When I bought it, I was not buying it with the idea of profiting from it. I
Right.
feel
Yeah.
fortunate. I feel fortunate that I bought it at a good price because I was, trying to because it wasn't a one of one. It wasn't this card that it was a cool card. I liked the card, obviously, or I wouldn't have bought it. But the point is, I was trying to get as decent a deal as I could. I negotiated with the seller a little bit to try to get a price that I was happy with. And in the end, I was able to get it for a very good price. And I had it for almost 2 years. But then when I went to go sell it, I went and checked comps. I went and looked at other things, and actually the market had held very well on those. Um, and it just needed the right buyer. It needed the right person to come around that was interested. Well, again, it didn't last a day. It lasted like 6 hours before I got an offer that was comfortably above. And again, with fees, I made $90. It's pretty good, especially for a card that I'd held and I bought it for PC, and I didn't go in going, best leave meat on the bone, bro. Leave meat on the
Did
bone.
did you take advantage of the eBay 50% off fees on sports
It's
cards?
got to be $1,000 plus.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, they didn't help me. But the point is that uh, because I had been buying a lot of the Favre stuff for a while, I've had the chance to play around and look at different inserts, different subsets, different types of cards. So it allowed me to kind of get a gauge on stuff that I like and my aesthetic and all. I look for different deals. So I'll use a couple of examples here. So this one's an SPX, and this is what year is this? This 2006 SPX. There's an autograph on there.
And
This is
see,
an out
right
of
off
10
the
card.
bat, not to judge, but this would be one that I could easily see letting go of because it's not a terrible card, but I don't like the design with the sticker over the image and everything.
Yep. Now, what's the advantage of it is that it is out of 10. So it's got a little bit of limiting, a little bit of serial numbering to it. So probably for the right person, there's a card that might be of some use to them. They might enjoy it. This one's another one here. You've got start rookies and stars. You got a little
Yeah, that
memorabilia
one's
and
not
everything.
bad.
Yeah. And that one's out of 10 as well. So the point was I was looking for stuff. My first criteria was, do I like it? Yes. But do I like it as much as some of the other ones? So I was doing comparisons. I was looking at some of these cards. And what I ended up doing is the ones that are staying in the box are stuff, like I said, from Ultimate. Patch autos, like some really nice stuff that I could get a pretty penny for those. Like I would do very well. But some of this stuff is like I could still do all right, make a little bit on it. But it's one of those things where just getting my money back on a bunch of these is enough. Because immediately it allows me to take this and generate a little bit of money in that account. And I've got the Spring Expo coming up, and maybe a potential some other cards may come down the pipeline that might be of interest. So there is probably going to be a buyer for some of these things. And as long as there is, well, that's great. Then that means whatever I generate out of these cards is then in turn going to be used towards a lot of my other collecting pursuits. In this case, I'm letting the collection pay for the next editions, whatever they're going to be. So from my perspective, that worked. So for me, it was just ruthlessly looking through it, going like, what are the things now that I've had the chance to try these different categories out, these different designs and everything, which are the ones that stuck with me the most? And then I went and chose. And sometimes I maybe had two cards that I liked, but maybe they're too similar to each other. So I said, well, which one do I like more? A or B? Because they're very similar. Because I like both conceptually, but one of them I like slightly more for one reason or another. And that's where I kind of found the differentiators. Because I said, and this is an important piece to this, for that collection, my goal was never to have the biggest collection. My Medano collection at this point is expansive because I've built it that way over a long period of time. But when I was working on this one, my goal was never, I don't want 1,000 Brett Favre cards. I don't. I have zero interest in that. Even over 100 might be stretching it a little bit. Ideally, I'd like to keep it under that. I just want to keep it inside of the confines of that box. And if the quality improves over time, that would be great. That I feel like would be sufficient. It's similar thing to what I do in the Soto. I like some of the Soto stuff. Well, I'm probably going to do a similar exercise with the Soto. There's a bunch of stuff that I have that I really like that I'm a big fan of, and there's other stuff that just isn't as interesting to me. So I go through and I find out like which ones are the ones that I really like, and tighten it up and get it down to the ones I'm not interested in building a stockpile out here. Is the point?
Right.
I want to have like a really tight group of cards that fit into these. And when I go looking through them, I'll be able to go through the box and go, oh, this is cool. Oh, this one's cool too. And that's the goal. The goal is to be able to look through each and all of them and say, oh, this is sweet. I like this one. I remember when I picked this one up. That
Yep.
would be the objective
And
there.
when I look back, yes, everything got haywired and I'm still working on roping it all back in. But when I look back, when I started my Nationals collection, it's kind of it had a purpose. There was an intent behind what I was doing when I started building that collection. And I think if you can identify, maybe not to a direct pinpoint of what you want or what your intent is with the collection, but if you can kind of identify what you want to go after into a collection like that, it can help you stay on a path because you mentioned Soto, and one thing I've always said when I've bought Soto autos, most all of my Soto autos are from moments that were from like the wild card game or the World Series, what have you. There were purposes behind them because let's be real, Soto is still young. He's got tons of autographs out there. I'm never going to own all of them. So I wanted to just stick to ones that had a reason. So I think, Robertson, I know I'm going to bring him up again. One reason I haven't been buying a lot of him is because I don't want to just get into that habit of buying everything just because it exists. I don't need everything. I'm never going to own. Like, that's one thing that we as collectors have to understand. We're never going to own everything, especially not today. So sit back and try to identify what you enjoy, what you like. I said earlier, I like the EX stuff. I'm really hoping that the EX hockey product, does well. Hopefully there is some good stars choices in there, even outside of Robertson. And, maybe I'll look to add some of that stuff, but I'm not trying to go after everything anymore because we're never going to own it. We're never going to own everything.
Somewhere off in the distance, Eric is saying, Reggie, no.
Yeah, he's still. That's why he's not here tonight. He was actually trying to get some more Leafs.
I'm just saying, like he literally has to have them all. It's like the Pokemans. Ironically, given Eric's stance on the Pokemans, that he does want to in fact catch them all.
Yeah,
Every single one of them works out. But yeah, that was kind of the thought process that I thought I would share that for now, and then I'll update more as we go as I get further along in this little project. But right now, like I said, so far the success was being able to find some stuff that I thought I was number one willing to move on, but also to be honest, the biggest reason also is it's not just finding stuff that I would move on it, but it's also finding stuff that I feel like there's some value there that can be
hmm
extracted. Because grabbing a bunch of $10 cards is not really going to do anything for me. It's like I may as well just throw that in the Z folio binder. Like this, it's not worthwhile. But grabbing some stuff like some of these autographs and a couple of these things, there's some nice stuff. It just needs the right audience. It's like some of these cards are pretty decent. But again, I've got other ones in that box that fill that hole. So I don't need multiple versions of the same kind of thing. So it's not even that there's anything wrong with the card, but I'm looking at it and going like, well, how does it compare to this other one that I have in this box too? And if the answer is I would rather have the first than the second, or the second than the first, that's basically what I did. And I ruthlessly went through the box and I asked myself which ones were the ones that were at the front line, where there is some value there, but then also at the same time I want to move it on.
yep.
So I think it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see, and then I'll report back my findings as we go along. But so far so good. First sale in the books completed, and made a couple of bucks on the deal, which is great. And then it gives me a little bit of a nice start. And then I'll put these out there. I'll figure out how I'm going to move them because, like I said, there is a little bit of an irritation with dealing with a lot of it if you don't have as much time. So that's why I don't blame somebody. I've seen a lot of folks that do consolidation. Let me kind of touch on that piece as well. Sorry, what I'm talking about is not consignment is what I was referring to. So, and I understand why some people would do that because it does save them time. However, kind of segueing into one last thing I was mentioning to Brandon beforehand, Slab Sharks around here does a lot of stuff with consignment, and people have gotten a lot into that. What I'll say though is that sometimes that can, I think it can work against you a little bit because I'm going to see there's a little experiment in real time. There is the most recent Slab Shark auction that at the time we're recording this is going to come up here on Thursday. There is a stack of Medano cards and there's a stack of Jamie Benn cards. I'm not going to reveal what I'm looking at. I'm not going to reveal it, but if somebody wants to go look into it, they could probably figure it out. But the point is that it looks like a decent Medano collection has been put on there and a decent Jamie Benn collection has been put on there with some very nice stuff. The plus of that is some cool cards that have made it onto the marketplace that haven't been there in a while. The downside of it is, and this is maybe a question that I would have, I would almost, Brandon, if it was me, I almost would have broken it up over a couple of weeks because I feel like you're hammering, like, because remember, this is ending on the same day. So you're forcing some people, I'm looking at it from the player collector's hat right now. I'm putting the player collector hat on here. You're forcing people to make decisions because if they've got X budget that they want to throw at this, and no individual card will use up the whole budget, but you can only split it so many ways. How are you going to attack this? You're probably going to prioritize, but how is that going to work out? Because for the Jamie Benn, there's some one of ones. That's one person I collect. Medano, though, is a higher priority for me. So if I'm going to choose, I'm probably going to prioritize the Medano. But some of them are probably going to go for a pretty penny. So I may not even be a contender for it realistically. So I have to I have to utilize the strategery. There's a lot of strategery going on here. And it's very complex when you've got multiple potential targets in the same auction.
You're cutting your audience because some of the cards, your nicer cards, multiple people will go after, but some of the other ones are going to get slipped through because, as you were saying, allocating the funds towards the one then takes away from the potential bidding on the others that may be, valuable, but they might go lower because there's not enough to go around. And if everybody's going after the signature pieces, the other stuff's going to get ignored. And I mentioned to you when I bought the Victor Robles Twitter Blue, I really feel like that card went undervalued because people were focusing more. There was, I think, 4 others of his first Bowmans, and they were low numbered. There was like 2 oranges. It might have been a red or a red shimmer or something like that. There were some other low numbers. There was a gold. And out of those, people were bidding on like the orange and the red, but they weren't bidding on the Twitter Blue. And it actually surprised me because that's the only one that's ever popped up. They're numbered out of 2. And so I think it was such an obscure one. People are more familiar with the orange and the reds. That's what they were bidding on. And so that allowed me, I didn't even go after the red. Even though they were nice, I didn't go after them because I knew I wanted to secure the blue. Had I been able to spread out the bidding a little bit, I might have went after the orange and the red. I already have a gold. So I think you're going to see similar thing in the consigners when they bulk all of it and just slam it all together. I think there is some missed opportunity there.
I would tend to agree. Now, one more thing there, and we'll kind of finish off on this one. But it's been a good discussion, and I wanted to have that because I figured we could definitely chat on this a little bit. But one more thing that kind of strikes me, and Neo made a video about it this week that I thought was interesting. But it's kind of a topic we've touched on before, but it plays into what you just said. He posed the open-ended question. Do we have effectively the question was, do we have too many parallels? And I'm of two minds on this. And the thing for me, so I'll outline my position here, and then I'd like to get your take. My thought process on this is there can never be too many parallels, and I'll explain why. It may sound contradictory to logic, but stick with me on this. The reason I say so is that if you're looking at it as a collector, then I don't care if there's 1,000 parallels, unless I'm trying to do a rainbow. If I'm trying to do a rainbow, then yes, then it's a big problem. But if I'm looking at it in reality and I'm not trying to do a rainbow, then all you're doing is just giving me options. You're dividing attention amongst a number of things. It may allow me to acquire the one that I like the best for a relatively smaller amount because attention is divided so many ways, depending on how the chips fall. So as a collector, I'm looking at it. It kind of goes back to what I just said a moment ago with the example I was giving about consolidation. So real quick, I'll grab one other card here. So here's an example. This is 2022 Spectra. So if you're familiar with Spectra, they're nice looking cards, but they've got a lot of parallels. A lot of different versions of a lot of these. And this particular one is numbered to 7. I don't even remember what the name of it is. It's pink something or other. But the point is there's a lot of them. If you just want a Favre autograph, then you might not be that picky. For you, it's just like, well, which one looks attractive to you and is reasonably priced for what you're looking to do? That is the only questions you're asking. So then you're not as concerned about, it's just the pink one, the blue one, the red one, whatever, unless you have a preference. If you have a certain specific color you like. And that's fine. But because there are so many, attention is diverted. So the low numbering doesn't necessarily penalize you. I was able to get that still relatively inexpensive. If there was only 2 versions and one was out of 7 and one was out of 100, the out of 7 is going to be a lot more expensive because you've narrowed down the field. Yeah, but I'm saying if you narrow the field, if you narrow it down to like very tight amount of selections, the attention can only go in 2 directions. I don't mind the parallels unless I'm doing the rainbow. But if I'm not, it's one of those things where like you could say, oh, but I don't really like the purple one. Well, if you're a big fan of the purple one, then you are going to be interested in the purple one. So that option being available to you is not necessarily a bad thing. It's like different options for different folks, different flavors for different people. I don't mind it so much, but I get the argument on the other side that it dilutes the value because you're breaking it up into all these things, and it might turn off some people to have too many options.
I I see it both ways. And I actually agree with your assessment on a collector. I think people coming in today, if someone walked into the hobby today, I think they have a significant advantage. And this is going to sound confusing, okay? If they came into the hobby and today was their first day and they asked for advice, I think they're at a huge advantage if they want to collect. Because as you said, more parallels creates so many more options. There's so much to choose from out there today. And if you just do a tad bit of research, and we've had this discussion in the past, so this is where the parallels can be a negative, is because a lot of the people in the hobby today don't want to do research. They get confused very easily. Some of the details of the products are confusing. But if you come in, and if somebody came to me today and said, "Hey, I want to collect, I want to collect Joe Flacco. I'm going to throw him out there. We're going wacko for Flacco. I want to collect him. I've never collected cards before. What do you suggest for me?" I would say, go on, browse Joe Flacco, look at the cards. What is your favorite color? Look at the pictures. You know, shop around, look around, and find a product, find a color, parallel, whatever that you like, and just stick to it, especially if it fits your price range, what budget you want to be at. Because what these parallels have created is a huge variety in prices. A huge variety. Like you can have a 5-6 figure card, and then the same player might have a sub $100 card, right? And that's a bit extreme, but it creates a wide expansion of value there. And that allows someone that just started today to be able to say, okay, I want to spend $50. I want to start my collection on $50, and they can go on. Now, yes, it's a very huge net to try to learn, but don't try to learn at all. Don't even worry about it. Find the product, find the designs, and find the color that you might like to go with it, especially if it's in your price range, and just stick to that. Just stay right there. And let's be real, you mentioned Spectra. Most of the products, they have crossover. Like the optic is probably going to have a similar color or pattern or whatever. The prism's probably going to have a similar color pattern. So if you wanted Joe Flacco and you said, "Hey, I'm going to do the purples of Joe Flacco. I want the color matches." It's very possible that you can do it. Some are going to be numbered, some aren't going to be numbered, right? You can choose that. Do you want a serial number on it or don't you? If you want to dive deeper, dive in, do the research, because a lot of times this is the funny thing. A lot of times the non-numbered are harder to hit. They're lesser printed. They're more limited than some of the stuff that's stamped with a number on it. The number just makes it easier for people. So I kind of agree with you in the collector sense. I think the expansion of parallels hurts more for the flippers, the people opening product, because you pull a card out of 50 and you think, oh, I hit well. You look at it, it's hard to price them, right? The comps get harder. And you might go to sell it and think, well, the 99 sold for 100. I can sell this one for, 75, 80. And you might only be able to get like $30 out of it. But then one that's out of 199 might have sold for, $75. So that part can get confusing. It can crush those people a little bit with having such, again, expansive, wide range of value. But for a collector, there's so many options out there. And again, going back to something I said earlier, you're never going to own them all. If you can complete a rainbow in today's mess of parallels, the web of parallels, congratulations. But if you just stick and niche down and stick to what you like, what you're attracted to, what fits your budget, you're going to have a hell of a lot of fun.
I agree. But that's exactly the reason why I thought I would bring that up at the end. It kind of plays into the interweaving theme of a lot of this discussion, starting with consolidation and talking
Mm-hmm.
about kind of making decisions, calling the herd, and also making decisions. If you pay attention, what I was talking about above all else was making decisions. Well, I'm in a position to be able to make those decisions because I have been able to experience it. I don't regret purchasing those cards because the only way I'm going to know if I like it or not is to see it. It's one thing to look at a picture. It's another thing to see it in hand and own it for a while and kind of get your head around it. Now, if you're new, I'm not necessarily my recommendation has always been to be like, I would rather you measure twice and cut once, especially early on, or if you're going to dabble in small dollar amounts because
Mm-hmm.
that way you're not overcommitting before you have any idea of your tastes or your preferences or anything. Like until you've developed a little bit of a, we'll use the term here, until you've developed a palate for what it is you like or what you don't like or what aesthetically works for you or whatever the case may be. Why would you then throw a bunch of resources into something before you have any idea if you even like the thing or not? Because if you go deep, then it's like, okay, well, actually, I don't like it. Okay, well, now you got to get out of it. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. And kind of playing into what we were talking about here. And this is far from the worst example, but it'll be illustrative. I was talking about on the silly card of the week, I talked about the 2025 Topps Chrome WB. Well, this list that I'm pointing to right here, those are all the parallels of the base card.
Well, I think 2025 flagship baseball, if my numbers are not escaping me here, I think there is 25 parallels that are numbered 25 or less, excluding the printing plates. And the serial numbers go way up from there. So 25 or less serial numbered, there was 25 different parallels, and I'm not even counting the printing plates. That was shocking to me. So yeah, I mean, there is a lot of stuff. That's a great product to talk about how there's so many different things. I've been sitting and looking at them. There's some parallels, the design and stuff I like of it. There's others I don't. I would have nothing to do with it. But then you go and look at like what people are picking and choosing and what they're paying. I I'm going to stress what my last video I ever did and what I was just talking about, waiting and stuff. I am in patience mode. I am just having patience because when the dust settles, we all know everything's going to come back down, and then just shop around, find what you may want, find what speaks to you, what you like, and stick to that.
Yeah, and I think it's fair. So the reason though I wanted to show that list is because that's by far the worst by far not the worst list because definitely there
Yeah.
have been some select products that are off the charts. Some Panini products are. The reason though I pointed this out and the reason I wanted to point to that specific list is because a lot of folks who didn't know any better had been looking at because WWE's license had been controlled by Panini, who does have a ton of parallels. So they thought, oh, Topps is getting back. It's not going to be as crazy with the parallels. Are you sure? Hold my beer on that. The Topps can keep up, especially these days. They know how to play on the
Yep.
parallel game as well. They're no slouches. So one important thing though from that list is that from that list, not all of the stuff on that list is hobby. And this is important because if you're new, that could be even more confusing because when you look at the list, you go, oh, yeah. So these are hobby only parallels. These are retail only parallels. These are mega box only parallels. These are breaker box only parallels. And sometimes the breaker box ones are like the same. So there's a gold and a gold geometric. What's the difference?
Hmm.
Well, the gold is in hobby and mega and value packs boxes, and the gold geometric is in breaker boxes. It's not the
And here's
same
a
thing.
little secret. I don't know if we're still in the phase, but I know in 2019 at least, and carrying into 2020, you want the true colors. Don't worry about geometrics, waves, and polka dots and all that other crap. It never made sense to me because as you were, and the reason I'm bringing this up is in baseball, Topps Chrome, the waves were always hobby exclusive, meaning limited to just those products of being able to hit the wave. But they were always substantially less than the true color. Like the red wave would be substantially less than the true red. And I never understood that because this was a hobby exclusive parallel. And these, like, you could get them out of a retail pack. So I think we're a little bit far out of that phase because I think today there's so much that people are just like, oh, this one's out of 10, even though there's 42 different 10s, but.
No, I'd agree. But one other thing that I'll throw in there, this is going to be an interesting thing. This is something I've been observing, and we're going to see how it plays out over time, is that the switch over between the Panini license and the Topps regaining the license and getting back into it, is that you almost have to retrain the hobbyists to this because with Panini, your true gold, using your example you just gave, if I say gold prism, it's out of 10. If I say select prism, it's out of 10. Gold. So, but then on Topps, gold is out of 50. So it's like, so the brain is going like, oh, gold. Well, there's a difference. There is actually, so for Topps, the out of 10 is the black refractor.
Which that's going to confuse the hell out of people too.
That's what I'm getting at. This is what I'm trying to say.
The Topps Chrome black refractors have had so many different iterations of serial numberings. It's crazy.
Yeah, but that's my point. That's what I'm getting at here, Brandon, is that right now you're seeing whiplash. I'm actually enjoying watching it in real time as the people are trying to recalibrate themselves. So wait, so you're saying we don't want the gold one? Well, if you like the gold one, then by all means go get the gold. But I'm just saying you don't need to pay as much because there's 5 times as many. Just letting y'all know. So you may want to readjust your pricing accordingly.
And the greens are out of 99 and usually sell for less than the golds out of 50 because the green's an uglier color and green's also usually a retail parallel. Yeah, it gets fun. It gets fun. Yeah. That's what I said. Yeah. Find your color, whatever, pattern, design, whatever. Just stick to that.
Yep. Well, the funny part is, since you mentioned the green, on some of the Panini brands, the greens are out of 5.
Yeah, or well, it depends on which patterns on it. Yeah. But
But I'm just talking like base green. A lot of the base greens for Prism are out of 5, or Select are out of 5. So again, true green, if you wish. But then for Upper Deck, for Topps, the 99. Red is the out of 5. The red is the out of 5. The green is out of the 99. Yeah. So I'm just doing the apples to apples, right? Like
that depends because there's like a Bowman product where the reds, they're out of 10 or something like that, and a different Bowman product, they're out of 5. I think it's Bowman's Best. Bowman's Best reds, I think, are out of 10. But yet all the other Bowman products, they're out of 5. Topps, they're out of 5. But Bowman's Best reds are out of 10. So they throw some screwballs in there too.
Yeah. But I think that the key takeaway, though, the reason I mentioned this at the end here is that if you're new, I understand why that would be not only intimidating, but you'd be like, run away as fast as you can. When seasoned hobbyists can get confused about the numbering scheme because there's so many versions of it and it's changing all the time. And we're in it all the time. We're in it every day. And it still gets confusing.
It has also, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it's not a problem. But on a collector side, you can have a lot of fun because you have more options, right?
Yep.
It's like going to an ice cream shop. You got 5 flavors. All right, cool. Great ice cream. But you go to another one and they got like 60 flavors. Yeah, you got a lot more choices, but it's a lot more fun to pick that specialty flavor of ice cream, right? But I know in the last 3 years, doing the book submissions, I used to be able to look at a card and tell you exactly what the parallel name was and what the serial number was and all of that stuff. Today, I'm like, I have no clue on some of this stuff because it has gotten so expansive. They've added so many new things that when we're like, if people don't have their spreadsheet made or whatever, and she'll ask me, I'm like, give me a minute, let me look it up because sometimes I don't have a clue. It's
Yeah.
like there's so much shit now. The list has gotten so long. It's like, it's a purple polka dotted rainbow zebra unicorn. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
So yeah, it has gotten a lot worse, but it can still be fun for people. Don't
Well,
expect
I
them to
think
be valuable many, many, many years to come, but we can have fun.
so. That's the key. So thank you for bringing that up because that's the key point here, is that as the individual collector, it's not a bad thing from the perspective that you can select. I have more options. I don't
Hmm.
want to live in a world where I can only have vanilla or chocolate ice cream. I
Right.
want to live in a world where I can have more options if I choose to. But that also means that I may choose an option that is more niche and obscure, and I might be the only one that likes it. As such, though, I should pay accordingly because, with the knowledge. The downside of it is long term, the confusion is not going to do good things for the long term value because the more options you have, it's going to split attention. And some people are going to throw up their hands and say, I'm not even going to bother because I can't even
Too much
decide.
shit. Yep.
Yeah, it's too much stuff. And I don't blame them for that. And when I was showing that list of cards, Brandon, I didn't even throw in the kicker because our friends at Tops, the Fanatics Overlords themselves, also did just recently release a Topps Chrome Sapphire. So we
Mm.
got to have the Sapphire version with its parallels too, right? Which is the same design
Those are a
effectively, but
little bit
cracked
more
out.
limited, but yes, they add to
They
the
are, but the thing is that design wise, though, Brandon, if I put the Sapphire beside the regular Topps Chrome, you think the rank and file person that doesn't know is going to know they're two different sets right off the top of their head?
no.
The design is the same, except it's the cracked ice. That's
Yep.
the base is the cracked ice, and then you've got the. So I'm saying I don't blame anybody for being confused. I don't blame anybody for turning them off because there's too many options. But at the same time, as a collector, I don't mind having those options. I like it, but I'm also not worried about the long-term ramifications of this will be felt. So
Hmm.
if somebody wants to make the argument from that side of it, I don't disagree with them.
Right.
We can disagree on the front end, but then also agree on the back end. As a collector, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But as long-term value perspective, oh, it might be like a horrific thing.
Yeah. I
It's like,
mean,
ooh,
I know people hate to hear this because it is different. It's different levels and on different scales,
sure.
but we are heading into a repetitive state of similarity to the 80s and 90s, with the junk era. Because there, even though the cards have the serial numbers and this manufacturer scarcity and everything else, there is still so much of it just in product alone, different variations of product and then different parallels amongst each variation. Like I wasn't joking when I said there was 25 different parallels numbered to 25 or less. I mean, you can think about that a second. Even if they were all like 25, 24, 23, they're not. There's literally that many of each different serial number, scaled down. So when you start compounding all that, I always like to joke. We laughed in the 90s when a card was numbered out of 10,000 because that they used to serial number stuff and it'd be to 10,000 and we look at it today and we're like, they thought that was limited, right? And technically it was because it was a hard ass hit because there was so much of the basic stuff printed. I look at today and that 10,000 number and I'm like, wait a second. Are they playing us for fools? Because I don't know where we're at right now, but if you add up all the serial numbers, how close are we getting to 10,000? They've just now chopped it up and said, well, we're going to make 62 different colors with different patterns on it, but you still have 10,000 of them. And I don't know if we're even close to 10,000 or not. That might be an exaggeration, but that's kind of like they just took that number and chopped it into pieces of the pie and just painted them different colors, to make us feel better about there being 10,000 serial numbers. So, and I'm not saying we're getting to the junk era, but prepare yourself for the future to there be a lot of stuff out there that nobody wants.
Well, listen, that's why I advocate for only collecting the goats.
Yeah.
Ziggy Puffy, Halif and Gill, Wacko for Flacco, Chosen
Leaf,
Losing,
anything leaf.
anything Leaf, all the Leaf stuff. There's a lot of them. Hashtag
Talk
terrible
about
advice.
101s.
Hashtag terrible advice. Hashtag ignore us. I would. Just throwing it out there. I'd ignore us. Anyway. All right. So I think that was a good discussion, Brandon. I think we covered a lot of ground there. So I know it was kind of a winding road. So let me kind of try to encapsulate this. Work is happening in progress. So speaking for myself personally, I am in the process right now of consolidating elements of my collection. That's an exercise I might recommend to you. So as a takeaway, again, to each their own. I love the idea of reevaluating from time to time. To each their own how they want to approach it. But for me, this is a good time, a good season for reevaluation just to get, because I will probably end up taking some of these cards and the proceeds will probably end up getting turned into a handful of cards that I will like more, that will fit into the collection that I'm trying to build. But that's because I've taken the time to try and really consider what kind of a collection I want to build. And the truth is, I may go through that box again in the future and find some other cards that I may be willing to call from the herd and do the same thing again. I have no qualms about doing the exercise a second time. And I have no qualms about going through some of the other collections and doing the same thing. I don't want to be saddled with a bunch of stuff just for the sake of having stuff. And that's important to me. So that's why I choose to do that. But from the other side of it, I'm enjoying what's out there. I'm having fun with it. I'm not worried about the quantity because I'm not committing to doing the quantity. I'm not out there trying to finish everything. I'm not trying to collect everything. I don't even want everything. The whole idea here is I'm working against wanting everything, but there's still stuff out there that I do want. There's still stuff out there that does interest me. And I'm keying in more of my attention directly on those things. And by doing that, that allows me to then get higher average satisfaction per acquisition, if that makes sense. I would rather have more enjoyment and have less acquisitions over time than have more acquisitions and, all right, in the box it goes, in the binder it goes, and just on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, and just grab a big old pile of cards. We don't need a big old pile of cards all the time. I will still have days where that's going to happen because some projects necessitate that. There are still some sets I'm working on, so that will be a pile of cards, but that's okay because I'm looking at the project in its totality. So there is room for all these things. It just depends on what you're trying to accomplish with your collecting. You figure it out, and when you figured that out, I think you're going to be in a really good place to try to direct your attention where it needs to be directed. Does that make sense?
100%. I'm completely on board with it. I I know I can't get much older, according to you guys. I'm almost aged out somehow.
Well,
You know,
if you go far enough
Russell
into
Wilson
infinity, maybe
style.
maybe the odometer rolls over. Like I don't know, that's a lot of
Yeah,
numbers.
yeah. But I'm finding the older I get, I realize I have a lot of stuff. And I don't even just mean cards. I have a lot of things that I like to collect. I have a lot of things that I own. And the truth is, as you get older, you kind of don't need a lot of things. So it's this battle I've been having of, yeah, I really like this stuff, but damn it, I feel like I have too much. So
Indeed, not for the horde, not for the horde on this one. But anyway, so that'll be it for us. I got to be honest with you, Brandon, and I think you'll agree with me on this. I think this was Eric's best contribution to the podcast yet.
yeah, I mean, I can't wait till we get, his silly card of the week vote next week and hear his thoughts. I'm sure he'll be in the comments, maybe. Hashtag allegedly.
Mm-hmm.
Hope he had a good evening and hope he's doing okay. The bike is okay. And yeah,
Listen, I have nothing but confidence. He'll let us know if he was able to score those 1987 Red Sox season tickets.
yeah,
He is in line.
they're a good team. They're a good team. Yep.
I think, coming off their World Series attempt, just falling short. But I think if they give it another
I,
go, who knows?
I was really, I'm surprised you said it was the Red Sox tickets because I thought that he had just became a much more larger Boston Bruins super fan after they decimated the team. I thought that's what he was going after. Like, must attend every single game, every night at the stadium. I thought maybe that's what he was going after, but yeah, Red Sox makes
Uh,
sense too.
Listen, Eric is a man of many contradictions. The only thing that is constant with Bougie Eric himself is his passion for the like button.
Yeah.
And on that note, we thank you for checking this one out. The audio versions of again have fallen behind again because again the audio version always falls behind.
I have fallen
will
behind on mine too. So
I will make a concerted effort to try to get us caught up. But if you are on the YouTube, you are getting the new episodes every single week. We have been very consistent. If you're following on the YouTube, that is the best way to check it out. You can check it out for yourself. All you have to do is listen to us. You don't have to be watching the screen, but we'll show some stuff on the screen from time to time. Other than that, that is the hub where everything goes. More videos coming up on the channel. Live streams on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The longest running episodic, whatever it is, we don't know. And we're at episode 119 here on the podcast, episode 120 next week. So that'll be very exciting. And we're churning away, slowly getting to some better and bigger numbers.
man, so we are, let's see, trying to do some math. I think we have done 81 episodes now.
There you go. Nice. Nice. That's 81 episodes with the crew because I was doing some audio episodes.
I went back. Our first episode was BIC 38 Luxury Crocs.
Luxury Crocs was classic. That was there have been many classic lines uttered. I don't know how we wound up in Luxury Crocs, but that was an auspicious start, Brandon. That was a big time start right there. And look at where we've gone since then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Overlays, praising the content gods as always. A lot of wild and wacky things. So now y'all know. And we had Cheetozard week last week. Cheetozard week was very exciting. That was huge. Anyway, all right, so that's it. For Brandon, Bobbles and Ball Cards don't associate for 540 flips, and off in the distance, wherever he is, probably consuming a chocolate stick with a side of mayonnaise for Bougie Eric. Leave any comments in the comments section. We talked about a lot of things tonight. So if you've got any thoughts on any of the components of it, feel free. We appreciate the feedback. We appreciate the interactivity because it lets us know kind of where your head's at on a lot of the things we'll talk about.
If you made it this far, do us both a favor and put in the comments, hashtag, where is Eric? And that'll let us know that you made it through.
Perfect. Love the secret code. So that'll be it for this one. We thank AMG for supporting the channel, the Silly Card of the Week, the podcast as well. And Tuesday nights is where this podcast gets dropped. We'll record it on the Monday. We'll drop it on the Tuesday. And then on the AMG website, there will be a podcast episode that drops on the Wednesday where like I said, I think this week is going to be Essential Credentials. Oh, sorry. It'll be EX 2000, 2324 EX 2000, which should be very interesting. If you like a little bit of a throwback to the old Essential Credentials in those cards, I think we'll get a little bit of that and some other throwback items in there as well. So that should be very interesting. And also vintage. There will be some serious vintage on this next upcoming episode. Regardless, I can guarantee that because I saw the images and I've got them ready to go for the next episode. So that'll be it for us this one. Thank you very much. Catch you in the next one.